On the first Tuesday of the month here on RPG Elite, we are doing a series called RPG Elite Philosophy for Life. Now, this is based off of the series I did for RPG Elite Philosophy. And there are a lot of videos in that series. And if you missed any of those, maybe you're new to the channel or whatever, and you missed some of those, there's a link for a playlist down in the description. There are a lot of videos in that. I'm gonna have to break those up into separate playlists because the major playlist is really long, but you can get the gist of what the RPG Elite philosophy is by hitting some of those videos. Now, there are 10 qualities to the RPG Elite philosophy, and we're doing the same thing for life. And we are quality number 6 today, and that quality is RPG Elites know the rules of the game. RPGs, tabletop RPGs, they have rules, right? And they have what's called core mechanics. And when everybody knows the core mechanics, then the sessions just go smoother. Things are better when everybody knows the rules of the game. Well, it's the same thing in life, folks. There are rules of the game of life. And when you know the rules of the game, you potentially can make your life better. But there are some things, just like in a tabletop RPG, in life that are foundational. They're core mechanics. You don't mess with those. If you mess with those, you break the game. You can't play the game. You might as well play another game if you want to change the core mechanic. So you don't mess with the core mechanic. And it's the same thing in life, except it's a little bit more serious. Because if you try to mess with the core mechanics of life, the core mechanics of life will fight back. Now, the core mechanics of life are foundational and they're immutable. And that's why they're more serious. I mean, you can't really change the core mechanics of a game like I'm holding my Sentinel Comics thing right here. All right, so there's the core mechanics of how that works. And if I change that, it'd probably break the game. And, you know, we really can't play the game and it just becomes a horrible experience. So I just, you know, if I want something else, I'll just, as I said earlier, I'll just find another game. And there are really 3 things that are interconnected and in tandem with one another, okay? And they're always there, and it's called reality, truth, and facts. And that is the framework of the game of life that we have to work with. And here's the thing about those 3 things that you really need to understand. Truth, reality, and facts do not care how you feel. They don't care if you don't like them. They care nothing about that. As I've always said, I've been saying this for years, truth is truth by virtue of what it is, not whether you can stomach it, nor whether you like it. It will stay the truth. And right next to that, in tandem and in connection with that, are reality and facts. Don't care anything about, well, that's not how I look at it. Okay, well, you don't need to look at it. You can look at it in a different way, but they will not change. And this understanding can either help or hinder you when it comes to the rules of the game of life. Knowing the rules of the game of life can make your life less stressful. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to be easier in the sense of there's not going to be any hardship, any tragedy, any difficulties. I would be lying. You want to know why? Because within the framework of the core mechanic of life, those are baked in. They are part of the core mechanic. And this, I know, it's not popular to say this. This is not what makes people feel, you know, nice and fuzzy inside. But again, we are working in the realm of reality, truth, and facts. And that's baked in, folks. It just is. Now, listen, I am not saying that I love the fact, or anybody loves the fact, that suffering and hardship and all those things are baked into the core mechanic of life. I don't like that either. However, I'm an optimistic realist, and I've said this before. Let me say this. It's like this. I want the best, but I'm looking at what's in front of me. I'm not ignoring what's in front of me and then being deluded and thinking like, oh, well, I'm just going to buck that. And no. I mean, this is the way that it is. So that's how I have to deal with things. I do not dismiss reality or the truth or the fact. I'll just go, okay, well, that's the way it is. That's the way it is, right? So you can't mess with that. This life is hard. This life is cruel if you're paying attention. Like if you're living in this world and you're not deluded, then you're seeing that this life is hard and this life is cruel. But if you work within the framework of the core mechanic of life, you can make it less stressful on you. You can. But if you're living in a delusion, then it becomes more difficult. And these hardships and these difficulties and these sufferings, you will multiply. And it's you that is multiplying it. It's not that life is coming at you, but no. It's you that's multiplying it because you refuse to capitulate to the rules of the game of life. Now, I know I might be hitting a nerve with some people today. And I'm praying that I might be helping some people today. That's the whole point of this video, right? That's the whole point of every one of my videos. So let's move down this road a little bit about knowing the rules of the game of life. Let's talk about what happens when you don't operate within the framework of the rules of the game of life, the core mechanic. So let's say you are an individual and you don't like being tethered to the earth. This is a very simple explanation, very simplified, but you'll get what I'm saying once I get finished. So you don't like being tethered to the earth. So what you decide to do is one day you're going to identify as a bird and you're going to go to the top of a, 15-story building, and you are going to fly because you don't like the rule of gravity. And so you're just going to buck that system. Now, you can do this. I'm not saying that you cannot do this. You can do this. People do it all the time. They live this way all the time. Well, let me tell you something. Again, the truth and the reality and the facts of the law of gravity, that rule, doesn't care about how you feel about it. So once you jump off that building, then you are going to go through exponential pain, or you're going to go through exponential pain and then you will cease to be because you'll be dead. And it's because you tried to buck the system of the core mechanic. And it doesn't care. And because of that, you'll break before the core mechanic does. So that is what we're talking about when we're talking about the core mechanic of life. You need to work within the framework of the reality of which we live and not, make it more difficult because you just don't like what it is. So that's just a very simplified example of you're going to have to work within the core mechanic because it will crush you if you don't. Now we have within tabletop RPGs optional rules, right? We have these optional rules in our game. And then sometimes we have rules that we make, which we call homebrew rules. Well, we can do the same thing in life because that's in our sphere of influence. Now, everybody has a different sphere of influence. Somebody that's playing the same game, they're playing the same game, but they have different homebrew rules. All right. And sometimes they share those rules because they think that those rules are going to make the experience of playing that tabletop RPG better. Awesome. And if it does, then that's fine. maybe it doesn't though. And so you guys have to make your own homebrew rules. But again, that is in complement with the core mechanic, not with trying to buck it. All right, so if that's the case, well, sure, you make that and you want to have a better experience in your tabletop RPG, and it's the same thing for life. You want to have a better experience in life. And so you go in that direction to see if this will help. Now, I'm giving you a very simplified version of this, right? Because life is very complicated. Even the foundational, immutable things, we find out later on in life as we're living that the things which we thought were immutable, maybe they're not so immutable. And the things that we thought were malleable, maybe they're actually immutable. And we learn these things if we are living this life, again, within the framework of the core mechanic, the foundational things, the things that we just absolutely know. And we actually are living life to learn and to grow and to become better versions of ourselves. But what's happened with a lot of people is that they make homebrew rules for their lives and then they complain about their lives. Okay, you can't do that because that's you that did that. You made those rules. So what are you complaining about the rules that you made for your life? You're the one that did it. So you gotta lay in the bed that you just made. If you don't like those rules, then you need to change them. And the problem with people is that they don't like to change them, or they don't like to use other rules from other people who are having a better experience, right? Are you getting what I'm talking about here? All of this is connected. So when it comes to the RPG Elite philosophy for life, you have to know the rules of the game for life when it comes to the core mechanics. And then you can add your optional rules or your homebrew rules for your sphere, and you can experiment with those things so you can have a more enjoyable and immersive life. Now, I didn't talk about this as long as I wanted to talk about this because I can go on and on about this one. Man, there's so much here. But the encouragement today is that, hey, y'all, don't mess with the core mechanic of life, because truth, facts, and reality don't care about what you don't like about it. So the wise thing to do is to work within that framework and make your own homebrew rules within the sphere of influence of your own life, but don't mess with the core mechanic, but complement it. And you're gonna find that your life, again, it's gonna be less stressful. Again, I need to repeat this because I don't want people to say that I was saying something that I wasn't. This does not mean that you will not have hardship. You will not have tragedy. You will not have suffering. That's baked into the core mechanic. I can't stress that enough. And I know for many people that's bad news. It is what it is. But even so, you can still have a less stressful life. And your life will be many times it'll be less difficult because you won't be shooting yourself in the foot by trying to buck the core mechanic of life. That's just my encouragement in applying RPG Elite philosophy number 6 to your life. If you learned anything today and you got anything out of this video today that was at least of some partial value, then if you can go ahead and do me a solid, and could you just we can scratch and we can scratch. Hey, can you crush that like button? Thank you. And if you want to stick around, I'll come out with videos every Tuesday and Friday, God willing. So if you want to do that here on the channel, at least, then go ahead, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. I got a lot of other things that are coming up and that we're working on right now, but I'm not going to, press it out in this video. We're just going to end this video with the question of the vid. The question of the vid is kind of two-tiered. Okay, so what rule of the game of the core mechanic of life have you tried to buck that you found out the hard way that you couldn't? And if you want to add this as a bonus, because that's the main one, but if you want to add this as a bonus, go ahead. And that would be, which optional or homebrew rule of life have you added to your life that has made your life less stressful? Let's go ahead and let's get some engagement going down in the comments below. That's going to do it for me, folks. That means I got to slide on out of here and do my snaggle push.
So exit, stage left.
You got a game this week? Then happy gaming, because I pray it is an RPG Elite session. I pray your life is an RPG Elite session that just gets better and better, and you're improving and you're becoming more of the individual that you want to be in your mind, and that you're working towards the better version of yourself every single day. But also that your tabletop RPG sessions are going well too. What? All right, y'all, I'm out of here. Your boy servant's got to say peace. 5,000 leets. I am gone.